Outflows from Bitcoin ETFs in the US surged last week as trade war concerns gripped the market. According to data from So Value, the 12 Bitcoin ETFs saw outflows of over $700 million, a more than 300% increase from the week before. BlackRock's iShares Bitcoin Trust ETF, IBIT, accounted for almost half of all outflows alone, as investor sentiment took a hit from rising trade tensions driven by President Trump's tariff plans. Peter Chung is Director of Research at Presto Research. Peter, what's your view on the current economic climate and how that could impact on how investors should view crypto ETFs right now?
I think similar to what we are seeing in the traditional finance market, there is generally a risk of trade happening in the crypto space as well. So that's translating into outflows out of all these crypto ETFs that you just mentioned. That's on the back of rising uncertainty on the economic outlook, on the back of tariff implementations by the Trump administration. So I think for the time being, unless we get some more clarity on how the growth outlook is going to look like in the midst of all these tariff negotiations, I think people will generally stay sidelined on investment in risk-on assets. That includes crypto ETFs as well.
Now, what do you make of the regulatory environment for crypto ETFs? And do you expect the approval of Ethereum ETFs and them to follow a similar trajectory to Bitcoin ETFs?
Actually, regulatory environment has not been any. I mean, it's been the best so far that we've seen in the last few years. The regulatory environment was actually quite restrictive under the previous administration, but the deregulating and then providing more regulatory clarity has been one of the Trump's campaign promise, and he's been delivering on that in the first few weeks he got into the office. So the regulatory environment has been quite good, and all the on the Ethereum ETF outlook, as you know, that was approved. I think it was May or June last year, and there has been some inflow, but not as much as Bitcoin ETF inflows. I think it's been registering somewhere around the $1 or $2 billion US. And the main reason for that is I think the traditional institutional investors has not been resonating too well with the investment thesis of Ethereum as opposed to Bitcoin. Bitcoin's investment thesis, which is digital gold, I think is something that's much easier for institutional investors to digest, whereas Ethereum's investment thesis is mainly centers around the idea of a world computer. But people don't quite, I think unless you are somebody that coming with a lot of tech background, it's a concept that's a bit hard to resonate with traditional investors. So I think that's why the Ethereum ETF has not been seeing as much inflow as a Bitcoin ETF.
Now, given the current market volatility, is now the right time to be looking at more closely managed crypto ETFs?
I think it all depends on your risk appetite and your profile. So there has been some interesting actively managed crypto ETFs that's been launched over the last few months. One example is the BMAX, launched by the Rex Financial, which invests in convertible bonds issued by the companies that adopted Bitcoin treasury operation, like a MicroStrategy, for instance. And so that type of instruments would give investors an access to convertible bond instruments, which are typically reserved for institutional investors, but now with packaged into an ETF, retail investors can invest in those instruments as well. And because it's a convertible bonds, you have a benefit of having a downside protection with an upside potential exposed to linked to the Bitcoin underlying asset Bitcoin prices.
Now, spot Solana ETFs are expected to launch in the very near future, but in Canada. So how much of a blow is this to the US?
It's not a huge blow because application for Solana spot ETF is also under review at the moment. So I think at the latest they should be. I mean, the U.S. SEC have to make a decision on whether to approve or not approve before within the 240 days, and I think that's supposed to before the end of this year. So the US is not too far behind.
And that was Peter Chung from Presto Research. And that was your look at crypto ETFs. I'm Ramzan Karmali, and this is Reuters.